Welcome back to Let's Talk Race and Man. I'm your host, Harrison Paul, and today we're going to talk about Congo. We all know that there's a war, and not a war, the neocolonialism regarding Congo's minerals and regarding Africa's minerals in general is the reason why Africa really has been still subdued, is the reason why the West has, you know, needed to subdue Africa. We always have this argument of like, okay, if other countries who or other nations that were, subdued from colonization, how come Africans are the only ones who fail to rehabilitate themselves? Well, my answer is African were the richest. So what Western countries could afford to lose, they couldn't afford to lose Africa. Losing Africa would have been a way bigger deal than losing any other nation because of the riches and the fact that their economy, most of their economy, sat and rested on Africa. So we have here U.S. court sides with Apple, Tesla, and other tech companies over child labor in Africa. I really like how it says "and other tech companies" because literally it's just you can only imagine. If we think about Ireland, there's Intel. If you think about Dell, all these kind of things. But I know there's an Intel headquarters in Ireland, and I'm pretty sure it is an Irish company. They would get their cobalt or coltan from Congo. So this is something that would have affected Ireland. But one of the main things I want to explain today, something very deep. I always see the African fails to understand what is really stacked against us. And we try to have this tough guy mentality that says, oh, I don't sit around feeling sorry for myself, or, hustler mentality. I get it, nothing can stop me mentality. That's a very idiotic mentality. I'll give you an example why it is. We have the likes of Robert Mugabe. Now, Africans are divided about what he represented or what he stands for, what he stood for. But if there's one thing that I can speak on his behalf is how Africa or Zimbabwe entered into sanctions during his reign. And I have a very interesting way for you guys to understand this. So bear with me and follow me because I'm going to break this down so nicely. So when we look at a man like Robert Mugabe, he was everything you'd want for an African man. Not primitive, well-spoken in English language, educated, and he was picked to be the president of Zimbabwe. And I'm going to tell you why these narratives are very, very dangerous for the African. Because then it becomes, I want to use the term competition in order to trivialize it. It becomes a competition for how dignified, according to the white man's standards, an African leader can be. I find it very interesting when you hear an African leader like Robert Mugabe, and he has like a very, if I can say, British way of talking. It's kind of counterproductive, isn't it? I would understand if he was born and raised there, but the mere fact he was British sounding is what would have made him the best candidate. So we're up against our enemy here, and the best way our enemy, or rather our leader, can defeat our enemy is to best mirror the enemy, which is quite ironic and a paradox in itself, right? But I watch his interviews in the black and white when he's a young man, well-spoken, educated. He looks the perfect candidate. And I want to let you know why these things are so dangerous. So if we look at his story now, we have a situation where a man felt as though if I behave a certain way, which is civilized, which is, competent on his terms, then I will outdo him at his own game, right? So that is going to turn out to be messy. Why? Because he sets the rules of what ethical is. So you're constantly playing it to his tune. And I believe Robert Mugabe was trying to be the best candidate possible until he found himself in a place where he just said, oh my goodness, I think I've just played to every tune. Like, the orchestrator in the orchestra. I think I've just been playing to the tune that they want. And later in his reign, he then wants to break free, and he has a more of a rebellious tune that he wants to sing now. Understanding that all these years, please, I hope you're following me, the more distinguished, the more I was actually moving further away, or rather closer into his playing field.
Every one of us to be a new man. If yesterday I fought you as an enemy, today you have become a friend and ally.
Our present state of mind is that you are now our enemies.
It could never be a correct justification that because the whites oppressed us yesterday when they had power, the blacks must oppress them today because they have power. An evil remains an evil.
You really have behaved as enemies of Zimbabwe, that we are full of anger.
This is why I have now decided to take up the spirit of rebellion. The spirit of rebellion. That's the way you speak English. I don't care. I'm not going to speak it properly. That's the way you do. I believe this is why the African Americans became such a strong factor, because they understood that we are going to be rebellious. And the problem is the African comes here from, comes here from Africa into Europe, and he feels as though if I apply myself best to the structure and the system that he has set, I can climb my way higher than him. And I'm not just talking, physically, education, whatever. I'm talking even the way we think we have to structure our minds, structure our character, structure our aura. It's a structure in a way that fits best an A student within that classroom. And we're forgetting it's still his classroom. So in his later life, he then tries to switch and have an aura of rebellion. But guess what's happened? Then they demonize you. So now Africa, I always say Africa, we're all one in my eyes. Zimbabwe are still sitting in sanctions for the time when Mugabe finally wakes up and says, these guys set rules for what distinguished is and sophisticated, and that is not morally correct. And that and they're always setting the moral high ground of what's civil. And we always feel that we are not trying to act barbaric in their eyes. Right? And I think he then realized, listen, I got to break free. He then commands his people, go out there, and I think he did it indirectly. I'm not sure if it was directly or if it was vaguely. He said it. But basically, the Zimbabwean people went to go and take back their land by force. Something he thought his people were going to get eventually. One of the main reasons Nelson Mandela to this day is questionable what he did. There's a row because he came there to get the land back for his people. And he didn't get the land back for his people. He still got a compromise deal. This is why they sing Nelson Mandela till this very day. we have to come to terms that our leaders will have to be their villains. I don't think I'm going to repeat that. Our heroes will have to be their villain. That will mean that you could also become their villain, unwaveringly supporting your hero. I don't think this is something the African is quite coming to terms with understanding. The same way a white person has to become my enemy if he is supporting Donald Trump. You follow me? People who support Donald Trump support his agenda. You follow me? Now, unfortunately, based off the society we live in, based off the world and the rules of this world that we live in, let me put it this way. I had a fight with someone on Twitter today, or again, YouTube, my comments. And they came and they left me this big spiel, and I said, division, you're dividing people, blah, blah, blah. And I said, because I hate when people divide people, blah, blah, blah. I could tell it was a white person. I said, I can bet you've not gone on a far right's Twitter or a far right social media platform and left that same energy there. We are the only ones policed on how we fight. Please follow me on this. So the world that we live in, it has become the black man's burden to suffer, to take the high road. You following me? So our heroes, even if they're not bad people, will always become bad people according to the rules. Because the rules are the black man cannot be offensive. Meaning when he hits, he cannot hit back. He has to be Mr. That's why I'm so happy I recently found out that white people Santa Claused Martin Luther's movement and Nelson Mandela's movement. Although there were questions towards the end of Nelson Mandela's, but there were very radical parts of those guys' movements that the white man wants to take out of it. I have a wonderful video here I'm going to show you. It's by one of my favorite folks. His name is James Baldwin. And it's a very wonderful video, right? I'm going to put up on the screen so you guys can check this out.
If we were Irish, if we were Jewish, if we were Poles, if we had, in fact, in your mind, a frame of reference, our heroes would be your heroes too. Nat Turner would be a hero for you instead of a threat. Malcolm X might still be alive. And everyone is very proud of brave little Israel, a state against which I have nothing. I don't want to be misinterpreted. I'm not an anti-Semite. But, when the Israelis pick up guns, or the Poles, or the Irish, or any white man in the world says, give me liberty or give me death, the entire white world applauds. When a black man says exactly the same thing, word for word, he is judged a criminal and treated like one, and everything possible is done to make an example of this bad nigger so there won't be any more like him.
Oh, I love this. So check this out, guys. Check this out. There is a reason. There is a reason we are the way that we are. I want you guys to begin to understand the tight space that the black man is given to fight his freedom. He has to do it in a certain amount of rules. And if he doesn't do it in a space, and I'm not even talking about systematically when we talk about IMF, UN, EU, all that stuff. I'm talking about even in his aura, his demeanor. He must operate in a way that does not make anybody feel threatened, regardless of the level of retaliation. That's not a question. He has to be, and this is important for you guys to understand, because like I said it before, psychological damage that happened to the African and the systematic damage actually harmonizes. So I was talking about Robert Mugabe, and when he tried to do things rebelliously, Africa till this very day are still under sanctions. Zimbabwe. Can you imagine that? Today, the people are suffering for how he retaliated to injustice. So let's contextualize this in today's world. Congo, right? We just brought it to the court of law. The court of law, who are the same people who benefit from Congo's demise. It's a mafia. I need you guys to understand this. They say, nah, all right, I got you, bro. I'm going to throw that out. Of course they're not going to. Of course they're not. So now imagine Congo go and do something by force. Now Congo become the bad guys. Africans who doubt the situation of African, you are so disgusting. And you are so uneducated. Zimbabwe are still in sanctions because a man said, okay, if I play the tune, then I will get to a certain place of intellect or whatever he deems competent. I will get to that space, and then guess what? I will be enough and granted my due diligence. That is the trick of the mind. It took Robert Mugabe a while to realize, not gonna happen. So he says, I gotta play rough. You play rough, all the boys gang up in each other, pick up the phone, hello IMF, I'm not happy with the fact that this guy wants to mess up my money. Don't worry, court. Don't worry, Crown. Imagine the defendant or anybody in the court can call the Crown. We just saw what happened with Israel. They're friends. How are we going to expect friends of each other to take the other one to court and charge him and give him a correct sentencing? So they have a phone call and say, you're going to throw that one out, isn't it? That Israel. Yeah, of course they're going to throw it out. No worries, bro. Then they come into the court and act like they don't know each other because it's all one agenda. So I want to move into my next part here because this is really special. This is really, really special. Check this out.
I've been to the protests before. I know exactly what the tone of the protests are. It's not about hate. There are a lot of people here showing a lot of love for the Gaza people.
What do you make of the framing of these protests as harmful and dangerous?
I mean, look around. We've brought our baby here. We obviously wouldn't do that if we thought it was dangerous. It's completely peaceful.
Well, I don't agree with that at all. If you look at the marches, I've been on several, and there's a lot of Jewish people on these marches.
I'm South African. I lived in apartheid, so that's why I'm here. In the words of Nelson Mandela, he said that South African freedom is not complete until there's freedom of Palestinians.
And what do you make of, the government, particularly the Prime Minister, being very critical of these marches and the kind of speech that is being made on these marches?
Well, he was not elected by the people, so he tells where he's coming from. So he can say whatever he likes. These marches will still go on.
All right. I want you to keep that black man in mind. Just keep him in mind, right? Just keep that guy in mind. That's all. I'm about to say something really big here. Keep that guy in mind, all right? The next video I want to play is this. This is AOC. Now, some pro-Palestine protesters came to her and harassed her quite recently. And I was thinking about this and digesting this. I'm going to play the tape and I'm going to tell you what I derived from it.
You refuse to call it a genocide in front of everybody.
I need you to understand that this is not okay.
It's not okay that there's a genocide happening. You're not actively against it.
You're lying.
I'm lying.
You're not.
You went on TV and avoided talking about it.
For what? Because now you can't say it's a genocide or what you're deciding for political race. You can't call it a genocide, then how do you say You haven't been calling it a genocide. Don't tell me I'm lying. Then just say it's a genocide. Just say it. Over 30,000 people are dead, AOC. You can't just say it for once. Just say the word. That's it. That's all we want you to say. Or you're not angry about people confronting you in public, but you can't call it genocide. Over 30,000 people have died.
Stop. Okay? Stop. Stop.
We're not doing anything. We're just talking to an elected public official. That's all we're doing. That's it.
Cut it, and you're going to cut this, and you're going to clip this so that it's completely out of context. I already said that it was, and y'all are just going to pretend that it wasn't over and over again. It's f***ed up, man. And you're not helping these people, and you're not
Sorry for the
helping them.
colorful language. Sorry for the colorful language, but okay, here we go. This is really special. God help me with this one today. Everything is connected. Everything is connected. As I've been watching these pro-Palestine protests and different stuff that are going on, the one thing that cannot get out of my head is that when white people catch wind of something, oh my God. There is this entitlement, I'm going to say something positive, that they are raised with in this world that says discomfort, probably why they fight back to racism so much. Discomfort is not my portion. So when white people have decided to take upon them the burden of Palestine, they go to bat because discomfort is not my portion. Please, guys, you need to follow what I'm saying with this. Don't take this to petty places. When a white woman is fighting for something and when a black woman is fighting for something, don't give me the African Americans because they have built something for themselves. They have a mentality. But let's talk about the African people and even the African diaspora. It's not with that same entitlement of a white woman. Why? Because life has taught her that she has a right, a say. Oh my God, I'm trying to find the perfect words to say this. They have been marching out there when they take wind of something. Oh my God. Black people, we don't realize that it's because it's been our portion. We raise our kids to say, like someone very dear to me kind of tried to wish me down by saying like, even the way you're talking online, you have human rights. How, I think he was kind of alluding, how are you angry at the white man? You have human rights. But in a way to say like, tone down. You're not even appreciating what you have, and it's clear because you're not noticing the privilege you have to even make a noise about something. Are you following what I'm trying to say? Our racial self-esteem is so low that we reduce our rights and our privileges to these small things that we rejoice in. That if you were to put a white woman in that same box, she's out, not putting up with that. I want to break this down for you. I'm asking myself today, I want to say, why don't black people do what that girl is doing about Congo? Why don't we do these kind of things? Oh, and then something hit me. Harrison, you're becoming a victim blamer. I was dwelling on this, because I tried to do at least something once a week, my quota for a diaspora video. So this, I couldn't find one, and I was kind of chewing and brewing this subject. I'll tell you why. Like James Baldwin said, if a black person does that, it's a different story. The vibe is different. It's just a different story. It's different. Oh my God. I hope you're following me here today. All of it is different. It feels different. The vibe is different. It's not going to feel like a white girl who was hounding a white woman walking down the street. It's a different story. It's a different ball game. The word violence comes into it. Here's another thing. If those people who are protesting, who have been, I'll put up on the screen for you guys to see, who have been tearing down those paintings, everything like that. If a black person did that, some black boys, like me, black boys, it's a different game. This is the dangers of this claustrophobic box the black man has been put in since the white man had the chance to control and set the narrative. And we, all children, have followed suit into that. Our parents, everything, they knew they beat us into things. You know, you don't have chance, right? Our parents felt it in the workplace. Our parents felt it in the world. They implemented it into us. Oh my God, God, please help me take. Whereas a white kid is not raised in that same prison. That same prison of your mistakes don't make you a criminal. Our mistakes make us criminals. You're criminalized. So a black boy is raised, a black girl is raised with a completely different temperament because he does not have 9 lives. Like James Baldwin said. One of the favorite things my mom said, and she wrote this book. It's on Amazon. You got it. I'm going to put the link in the description. You guys got to try and get it. We forget that our leaders were also children of colonization. You have special people who come out, like Kwame Nkrumah. We have all this stuff. We must not think this is the norm. Majority of us, anybody who is deep in this fight, knows that decolonizing the mind is not an easy thing. So that's why I will not have any more debates with Africans who just think, oh, just do this. Oh, just do that. I know you're not. I know you're not studying this topic. I know you're not studying this topic. I know you're not about this topic. Anybody who's really about this topic understands the change on the mind of the African. Anybody who really studies this topic understands the depths of the change of this topic. That colonization wasn't just a moment in time, but the change on the mind of the African is something that we are still trying to unravel and break off each African so we can unite ourselves. And we forget that our leaders were also victims to these energies, these narratives. That's why a man like Robert Mugabe, when he gets into power, he's trying to also beat the narrative that he believed about probably his own people. The barbaric narrative. Oh, guys, I hope you're following me here. Why a white girl can go out there and shout at a white woman, hackle at a white woman walking on the street is because her life's different to my life. I couldn't chase a white woman hackling down the street. It looks different. My sister couldn't hackle a black woman walking on the street here in Europe. It looks different. It feels different. Why? Because we know the story. Let's not act like we've not been watching the movie. Like we just came in, you act like, oh, just don't, that person said to me, just don't look at differences. No, there's been a movie going on. Everybody knows the narrative of the movie. Everyone knows the story of the movie. Everyone knows who's the character. Everyone knows that. We're trying to forget that and pretend like we've forgotten it more than we have. Some of us Africans are trying to stop ourselves from believing it. And then some white people are trying to actually stop themselves from believing it. We know the story. Africans on the troker box. Poor. Can't help themselves. Monkeys. Maybe crime. And if you're okay, maybe I found a good black person. Are you following me? So it's such a claustrophobic space for an African to break out of that. There are so many rules set on him that's not set on a white person. So I was going to make this video to say, black people, why can't you just do what Palestinians, look how hard they're going for their movement. Look how she hackled it. And I felt the Holy Spirit said to me, now, Harrison, what's that going to look like if a black girl, a strong black woman, like a build of Serena Williams, is hackling a skinny old white girl like that walking on the street? What does that look like? What does that look like? You see, our room for error because of this narrative. So I want us to understand when we're thinking about the fact that we just lost the case about Congo, when we're thinking about we have to organize ourselves psychologically, rebuild everyone. You don't think it's important, but those little Instagram pages you see that are affirming you as an African are doing so much. Affirming your existence, affirming your power, affirming your rights are doing so much. Our parents didn't have those little Instagram posts. So they knew, like, I was reading my mom's book last night, and one of the chapters she had in the book was, she was a Christian child, and she believed everything God did, he did it for a reason. So even the fact that white people were above her, because she was a child, a colonization child, she was actually, in Rhodesia at the time, then Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe. And knew white people were superior. It was a fact then. It was something she believed as a child. Her family never questioned. It's what God said it that way. Our parents lived in this narrow air, this thin air that was given to them to live. And then they raised us with that thin air. And whether you like it or not, and I'll try and sign off here, whether you like it or not, Negro, it is never yet going to compare with the same bourgeoisie, room for mistake. I'm trying to find the term, that space to make mistake as a white woman gives to her child, because life has treated a white woman differently. In work, in everywhere, her mistakes felt different to yours. Her mistakes looked different. I don't care how much you try to hop on that wave of, oh, don't worry, I don't give victim mentality, I don't whatever. It looked different. It looked different for her. The room for error, the thing, it looked different. The same way I told you, if I was walking down the street hackling AOC, the minute people see it on the news, it looks different. It feels different. Are you following what I'm saying here? So when you criticize the African or criticize the nation of Africa, you have to understand there are these hurdles we are jumping over. There are some of us who think if I apply myself to that, I want to call it this unspoken system of what morality is, or what civilization is, or what civilized is. If I apply myself well enough, there's some people who are still believing what Mugabe believed in the beginning, before he realized, I'm the smartest Negro out here. I speak like them, I walk like them, I talk like them. And they strung me along all this time. Now, Zimbabweans, go and get your land back. People went out there and teared out white farmers out of their land, and he's still demonized, went to his grave demonized. And then they get your own people to demonize you. And Zimbabwe celebrated when he died. So we are not allowed, like James Baldwin said, give me liberty or give me death. No, a little bitty white girl can say that while she's standing in front of a painting and slashing it up and putting food on it. If a group of black boys said, give me liberty or give me death on behalf of Congo, and was slashing up things, it's a different headline. This applies to the African on the ground and the African leader. What is going to free the African is this psychologically understanding this. And everyone saying, are you ready? I'm ready. Rebel. Being okay with being hated by white society, by white people. Being okay with that exile and finding solace in each other. And that is what you have at America. And that's why the black African comes from Africa and goes into America, and he is now trying to undo everything. I had a wonderful comment, and I'm going to read this comment, and I'm going to sign off on this, because I think this is quite a long episode today, but I really had to give this to you today, guys. Someone left a comment on my page today, and look what they said to me. So it was on my video where I talked about the fear of the white man. I'm going to put up on the screen for you guys to see it. Windrush baby here. Oh my God, I love this stuff. Windrush baby here. First, it was slavery mentality, which was the Jamaican. Windrush was the Jamaicans who came to the UK, right? They're the first ones to come after World War II. They needed black people to work for them because their economy was going through a struggle, and they called a bunch of black people here to work and never really gave them the respect that they deserved. Windrush baby. So either she was born from parents who came during Windrush. Windrush baby here. And I always talk about there's something that the African learns from proximity and length that I'm understanding. Right. Windrush baby here. First it was slavery mentality, but now it's colonialism mentality by British, Nigerians, and Ghanaians. They undo the work that the Windrush generation have done. What African Americans have learned, and what some Jamaicans here have learned, is that you gotta break free of that tight space they put you in. That's easily to be demonized, easily to be put in this box. And you say, guess what? I'm a bad nigga. There, I said it. Take it. I'm a bad Negro. Yes, put me in there. I'm there. I'm him, the bad Negro. Done. Case closed. Well, Africans come from Africa, show how well they can apply themselves and opportunity and everything like that. And the white man says, brilliant, I'll take them. And then Jamaicans and then African Americans are saying, we've been working so hard to show these people that we are going to be rebellious. Like I said, what Mugabe tried to do. And so, now, let's use that analogy. And someone rewind you back to what Mugabe thought at the beginning. Applying yourself as best as you can. And you are undoing. Africa will be free when the mind is decolonized. Not financially. You can think it will not be, it will be the mind of the African when we understand this. When we understand this. A perfect book to help you do that. This book changed my life. I helped edit the book. It's my mother's book. It is called Thank You, Mrs. G, A Colonized Mindset to Total Emancipation. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Guys, I could go all day about this topic. One of my favorite. It is unfortunate that Africa did not get its justice within the court system. I didn't expect it. But one thing I do expect is that we continue to awaken ourselves and we understand who the enemy is. When we unite ourselves and we apply pressure consistently, I have a feeling things will change. But guess what? They just dust it under the rug, and they know, like James Baldwin said, the rest of you know not to be no bad niggas. Silence. Because the rest of the people who's supposed to be backing you don't want to be known as a bad nigga. And that's why black people would rather fight ourselves than fight the real perpetrator. Because it's more uncomfortable to fight the person who's feeding you, to fight the person who's giving you your job. And that is when we've turned our complying into worship. Because now we worship the hand that feeds us. Thank you so much for watching.
And I'm on a mission for you.